Hello, today I will be doing a creepypasta called Squidward Suicide. It's quite known. Hope you enjoy it. I just want to start off by saying if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. It wasn't paid, of course, but most internships aren't. But it did have some perks beyond education. Two adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would go crazy over it. Now, since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they were aired. I'll get right to it without giving too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat, sapped of creativity, so it took them long to start up the next season, but the delay lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There is a problem with the Series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back for several months. Me and two other interns were editing in the room along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received the copy of what was supposed to be Fear of a Krabby Patty. We received the copy that was supposed to be Fear of a Krabby Patty and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that it isn't the final yet animators now given that it isn't yet animators often put up mock title cards, sort of an inside joke for us, with funny, oftentimes lewd titles such as How Sex Doesn't Work instead of Rocked by Evolve. And SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Nothing particularly funny, but work-related chuckles. So when we saw the title card, Squidward Suicide, we didn't think it more than a morbid joke.
One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays as normal. The story began with Squidward practicing his clarinet, hitting a few sour notes like normal. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside, and Squidward stops, yelling at him to, keep it down, as he had a concert the following night, or the next night, and he needs to prepare. SpongeBob says, "Alright," and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash animation transition screen comes up, and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things began to seem a bit off. While playing, few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't at all. At this point, the sound is synced up with the animations, so yes, that's not common at all. But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There's a slight murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him, but not the normal cartoon booing that is common in the show. But you could very clearly hear malice in it. Squidward is in full frame and looks visibly frightened. The shot goes to the crowd, with SpongeBob in center frame, and he too is booing, very unlike him. This isn't the oddest thing though. What is odd is everyone has hyper-realistic eyes, very detailed. Clearly not shot of, real people's eyes, but something a bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. The view of his porthole window is of a night sky, so it isn't very long after his concert. The unsettling part is that this point there is absolutely no sound, completely mute, literally no sound whatsoever. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, but their status showed them working completely fine. He sat there blinking in this silence for about 30 seconds, then he started to sob softly, put his hands or, tentacles over his eyes and cried quietly for a full minute more. All the while, the sound in the background very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through the forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom on Minon's face, and by slowly, it's only noticeable if you look at a shot 10 seconds apart side by side. The sobbing gets louder, more full of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit, as if it twists in on itself. For a split second, then back to normal. The wind through the trees sound gets slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part of the sound is the eerie part is the sound, and Squidward's sobbing sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but if the speakers had holes, the sound was coming through the other side. As soon as the sound, as good as sound as studios like to have, they don't purchase the equipment that produce that kind of sound quality. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faint, something sounded like laughing. It came odd intervals and never lasted more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it. We watched this show twice, several times, so Pardon me if things are sound too quote unquote too specific.